back here on the Bossman show, in front of the show, Coach LaVale Jordan of the Butler Bulldogs here with me. Coach, what's up, man? How you doing, man?
Man, all good this way. Just we're overcoming, managing like everybody else. Doing
Coach,
great.
let me ask you this, man. It's funny how everything kind of went crazy on my birthday, which is March 11th, with the NBA shutting down. So
Yeah.
everything after that just went downhill. So for you guys, how did you all find about the news that the Big Ten tournament, the Big East tournament is going to be canceled pretty much? And how did you all deal with it, man? Because you have to get kids back home. Got to go school online now. So how was that whole transition process for you guys, man? I know it was hard for us in the NBA, and to be hard for you guys as well.
Yeah, it was just it was almost surreal because you're in the moment. I mean, we were literally about to get on the bus to go over to Madison Square Garden, because it was around noon. There was noon games tipping off at noon, and then you start to see the cancellations. Big Ten canceled and Big 12 canceled. So who's left, and so it's like, all right, are we gonna cancel too? And everybody else is following. We're gonna follow suit. And our noon game actually tipped off Creighton and St. John's. We were the 2 o'clock game, and so we're preparing as if it's gonna happen. And then around 1 o'clock or so, right before we were about to hop on the bus to head over, it started to seem like, okay, I don't know if we're gonna actually play. I think that game got stopped. That game got stopped at halftime, so we had to meet with our team. But they were dressed like in uniform,
Wow.
and I'm dressed. We were kind of about there, ready to go get on the bus, and then we had to break the news to them. So there was a lot of emotion, just because, that's, you didn't at that point. It's like, all right, the Big East tournament's, done. There was still hope that we might still play the NCAA tournament, and we felt like we were in a good position to get in and the whole deal. But then so guys went, it's like, hey, go with your families, grab some lunch. We'll get more information and get back together here when we get more. And around about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, we had to have another team meeting to tell them, it's all shut down. And then, a lot of emotions poured out because you got seniors that, that's their opportunity is gone, and that's the end of their season. And so everybody was kind of hurting together on just it being over. So yeah, so you get through that, and now you got to get on the plane and get out of there. We were in New York, of all places,
Oh yeah.
in the moment. So we get through that, and we're trying to get out as quick as possible due to all the risks, and get back on campus. And then it was spring break for Butler University during that time, so no students were here. And so we let guys go home, and then come to find out, spring break was going to get extended for a long time. So yeah, that was just the communication piece, because it was coming so fast, right? And it's nothing we've ever seen before in our lifetime.
It was funny because you was in New York. The Hawks played the Knicks on my birthday at night, so I was kind of thinking about, did any of the New York people pass it on to us? Because no, it's the Knicks.
Yeah.
They're here, so it was like I was worried for a few weeks there, but when nothing happened, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll be dodge this bullet right now, because I was scared for it, because I have asthma. So I'm like, okay, let me
Yeah.
hope they didn't give me nothing. But thank God that worked itself out. But yeah, if you was in New York, I'll do with the Knicks. So it's like we kind of had a similar situation going on at the same time
Yeah.
there.
And there was a moment right after we arrived, they told us all to, just quarantine at home for 14 days, just because we were just coming from that area, and we didn't want to. You just didn't know. We didn't have a lot of information. It was like, okay, so everybody's been walking around. People on the plane been walking around in New York City, and getting ready to go to the game. Now there's no game, but everybody's been out in public. So what do we do next, and what does that mean? So thankfully, there was no positive cases in our party, and everybody was fine from a health standpoint.
Academically wise, I know your academic advisor really played a big role getting your young men to work from home there, because when you're used to being in class in front of your professor, to have to transfer to the virtual learning, right snap of a finger. The academic advisor had to really help them out a lot, especially their blackboards. And you all can watch it, of course, with blackboard, but having to get those young men to keep their grades up, take care of responsibilities academically while at home to their own devices had to be a little challenging at times. But knowing your staff there probably got young men, they'll spring semester real good for those young men for you.
Yeah, I think it was, you had a new level of appreciation for teachers and professors, right? Because shoot, my I've got three daughters are 12, 7, and 15, 12, and 7. So, we were turned into homeschool teachers and trying to facilitate the online and the remote learning stuff. And for the professors, they were, everybody, faculty and staff, they're all trying to figure out how to, formulate something that would be able to do. So that took some time, for professors to get together, how they could, finish the semester, and then everybody's adapting to that plan. And for our academic people, advisors, and athletics, how to help support. And when normally you got a study hall or a study table, and you got tutors and resources here, but now everybody's at home and you're doing it all on Zoom like this, and trying to stay engaged. And so, yeah, that was a whole different thing that I think you grew comfortable with after some time. And now some people still have to do it, unfortunately, here in the fall semester. And so we've started that way for the first 2 weeks. And but at least there's a reference, it's like a new level of comfort, even though it's not what you want. But at least you know what you're supposed to be doing, you know how to access things, you know where to go, and how to communicate, since you're not in person.
Now, Coach, for your young men's bodies, I know some of them probably didn't have hoops at their homes back home. So, drinking this, the coach had to probably work overtime to find the young men ways to keep themselves kind of semi-quasi in shape without having a hoop and different plans, knowing that based on what they all have at home, because you don't want to get back to you and kind of start from scratch. So, how did that process go for you guys?
Yeah, it is crazy. You're trying to figure out what you can do, right? We want to give guys a basketball workout, but gyms are shut down, especially back in, April, when we would be in our postseason before we release them to go home. May, guys don't have a gym they can get in. Guys, they start taking park baskets off the rims at the park. And
Yes.
there's nowhere to play basketball. Like, if you're a cross country runner, you're fine. You just go outside and run and pick your distances. But you needed, weights and things to develop your body. And so, yeah, our strength and conditioning coach, Matt Johnson, was, working overtime to just come up with what we could send them, bands and things that they could use while they were at home. He was posting videos, and we had a team Instagram account where he was, just firing things to demonstrate exercises and show them, to come up with some routines. Because they're just so used, as an athlete, especially a collegiate athlete, you're just so used to the routine.
Most definitely.
Right, getting in the weight room, get with one of the coaches, get a workout in, class and study hall, and you just regimented. And now you get home, and it's like, you didn't have to wake up maybe at the same time and have the routine. And so that was a big challenge, to say the least, just trying to get a routine for them, give them things that would keep them engaged during that time where we were apart. And then it became, usually we would get our guys here in the summer at the end of June for us. Newcomers come in, and other guys, returners, are back, and you get those, 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks you're allowed there in July, heading into half of August. And so that even got, we were all online for the summer. So guys were still at home, and you're trying to, now you got your newcomers that you want to get here, and, you had the introduction and the team building, the team bonding, and workouts, and get their fundamentals in place. And so now that all of that got delayed as well. And so those young guys that finish up high school that are so eager to come,
Most definitely.
can't come yet. So that was, all of that was just new challenges. And so many coaches, and you're on the line with other coaches, because nobody has a game plan for it, right? Nobody's got the playbook to say, oh, here's what you do when a pandemic comes.
You don't got that. You don't have that one.
No, it's like you got to have a lot in your tool belt and your kitty as a coach, but nobody had the playbook for this one.
No, most definitely. And it's kind of speaking to in those Zoom meetings you had. We have a lot in our country social unrest with all these different killings. So, how did you all address that with the team? Try to give your team the education about that and get them all ready to the vote and understand that they do have a voice, they have power, and get them to understand the issues of what we're going on around us. Because we've kind of had the pandemic and the social pandemic as well at the same time coming together. So, right here and right at our faces in 2020. So, how did you all kind of talk to your team about that, help them all understand what's going on in our country right now?
Yeah, no question. We'll never forget 2020, right? Any of us that were, yeah, will live to tell about it. But yeah, I think that was, just being open and honest. We try to have that environment and that culture in any ways, Jr., where we can just hop in and have a conversation about real talk. We say all the time, hey, we don't want elephants in the room. Like, we're not going to be better men. We're not going to be a better team. We're not going to be better players and we got to have some humility about us to be able to handle the truth.
Most
And
definitely.
so, but when truth unfolds right in front of you, that it's a difficult thing. It's difficult for me. I'm sure it's for you at our age to process what was going on, why something like a George Floyd murder would happen in 2020, and all the elements that resurface that come with that. So for me to process and then try to help our guys process it. They're
Most
18 to
definitely.
20, they got different ethnic backgrounds, and they're trying to understand. But allowing them the space to talk was kind of the first thing, to just open up and talk about how they're feeling, and just unload, and just listen, and some of the things that were going through their hearts, their minds, and then keeping the dialogue going, and then starting to educate, where systemic racism and some of the things that go along with it, and the history of our country. So we've had some real good Zooms with good use of it, is sharing videos with them, from an educational standpoint, and then having dialogue about things that happened in the past, and then talking about change for now. Like, all of our guys, proud to say, are registered to vote. We did a voter education Zoom with someone that to help us out last Thursday, to talk about making sure the toolkit they need for absentee ballots, because most of our roster isn't from Indiana, so they got to be able to request it on time. And we have a Be United initiative in our athletic department that started as a result of all of this, to just address it, and having them take that vehicle and that platform. And did a crucial conversation. If your listeners hadn't heard it or seen it, they can check out butlersports.com. And there's a Be United crucial conversation where a couple of our players and myself allowed them to open up right here in the middle of the court at Hinkle Fieldhouse and just talk about a lot of the things that they're dealing with in this context. And so it's been awesome to see them kind of want to engage and be involved and want to seek change, and as they understand more ways of how they can do that and go about it through all of this unrest.
And coach, I gotta tell my listeners, like for me, I'm JR, but when I watch out my Atlanta Hawks gear, I'm just JR, a black guy in Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? You're just Laval, a guy in Indiana, in Indianapolis. So it's like when we take off our gear, we're two black men and trying to live our lives the right way. And we could go out. It could be us. It could be hashtag JR, hashtag Laval, because unfortunately, our country is not progressing much we thought it has, and I feel like we have to educate our young men and give them that background. Because for me, I've decided to use my show as a platform going forward, because I have a voice. I got to use it for good. You know what I'm saying? And now I'm gonna do me a 501c4 that sort of nonprofit to help out as well. So I've been inspired by this to use my voice, having racial bricks right here in my backyard, Martin Arbery right here in my backyard, to do something about this and help our state and help our nation regionally, and let's try to make a difference in some way. Because I feel like, Coach, it's time for change. We voices like you and I can help spur that change as well, Coach.
Yeah, no question. I think, and I've said this multiple times now, some of the things that we've seen. It's like, once you see it, right, you can't unsee it.
Most definitely.
And now, there's a choice we have to make. It's like, if you feel like that's okay, that's your choice, right? But I would like to think that most don't, right? So now, how do we go about pursuing, what we do want as a culture? Because that's definitely not it. And now what's our role in that? Like you got a platform, we have a platform as coaches. And you've seen athletes, in a big way, professional athletes use their platform. What's our role in it, and how to go about, influencing true change, right? To have it be in a better place. And so, again, we're all making those decisions on what we want to be and part of, and what vehicles to jump on, and whether it's voting initiatives, whether it's things on our campus in our Indianapolis community that we're going to join in and be a part of. But whatever it is, it's like, hey, this isn't the way we want it. So
Most
let's
definitely.
all, and you're right. It's one of the most impactful things for me, Jared, was one of our Bryce Golden, one of our players who's not black, he's a white kid from Virginia. He called me a few days after to check on me, which was really impactful. It's like, just, hey, coach, how are you doing? Knowing he never experienced it, doesn't necessarily know what it's like to be black, but there's such a care level.
Most definitely.
And we've got obviously a relationship to where but he was just calling to check, not as his coach, it's just like, somebody that he knows, that it looks like, that is black, that's could, just knows they're probably different, a whole set of emotions running through, just saying, how you doing? It was a big thing. And I think having those crucial, like I said, we had one winning amongst our team, multiple. There's one out there that everybody can go watch. But those crucial conversations, uncomfortable conversations, the dialogue that hopefully is happening in a lot of places. And let's be honest, like, if we're gonna be comfortable, we're probably not gonna change much.
Most definitely.
Right? So it has to get a little bit, it has to get uncomfortable here and that's the thing about speaking up, using a voice, peaceful protests, like those things it's not comfortable for a lot of people, but it moves the needle to where we're going to have to do something different.
What God say is, coach, before we move on, my next question is, like, I've lost 4 sponsors since I've been talking about us and the system, what's been going on. I lost 4 sponsors, but I say this, coach, like, you cut me off because it's not the Hawks, Braves, or whatever you want me to talk about, but talking about my people, you cut me off. So it tells me all you know about you as a company. If you're gonna cut off sponsorship because I'm saying stuff that you don't want to hear, what makes you uncomfortable. So it's like, wow, really, talking about real life stuff is an issue for sponsors, I see. So I was like, it took me back, but I'm like, shouldn't be surprised, because everybody's not with the movement, of course. Everybody does not want change, but still be about the change. Those who push back against it, we still got to be about it and fight against that, and still push the right message to help out the right people. So when one person hears it, tell somebody else, we can get something going and get their ball rolling that way, then we will have some change eventually down the road here.
Yeah, no, exactly. It can't be status quo. That's for certain. And it's like the thing I tell our team there about culture is, if you have a culture, everybody doesn't fit. Right? That's the beautiful part of it now, and is like, if it fit everybody, well, this culture that we want is like, we're all human. We're all the same under God, created in the image of God. That's what I believe. So it's like, well, that makes us, one. And now, how
Yes,
do we
indeed.
keep growing toward treating each other as such, and putting systemic policy in place that hold people accountable when they don't, and having the opportunities be as such, and if you lose a fan, or if you lose it's like, hey, that's their choice, but this is not about, this is a human thing.
Yes, this is right
It's
and
bigger
wrong.
than, yeah, this is bigger than that.
Now, Coach, let me ask you, how's recruiting been via Zoom? I know that's been weird for you guys. We have to recruit via Zoom, and probably doing like campus tours as virtual via Zoom. So, how was that new wrinkle to recruiting being this time around for you?
Yeah, it's different, man, because the recruiting it's a relationship building process, right? And so, Like you and I, if we met in person, it'd be a lot different conversation, just a different feeling, body language and things
Yes,
that you get to
indeed.
feel like we got a good vibe and the conversation's good. But man, it'd be good to be down there in Atlanta, it's chicken and waffle spot and chop it up, right? But
Yes, indeed. Yes.
it's just different. But we've adjusted, and I think kids have adjusted. Parents, and the fact that they can't have 2 feet actually on the campus at the current moment. Just for themselves to because there's such a feeling like when you get to a place and you kind of feel it feels right, and so you don't get that. No different than I guess virtual dating. It's like when you're actually with someone, right? You get it just feels right, or it doesn't, and at least you know it, right? And so now you can move on to the next opportunity or option. So, but we've done, our staff has done a great job. We've gotten a couple commitments secured via, the virtual recruiting, and so I guess it's going well. But it is a ton different. I'm a big guy on, when you get here and you kind of get to see the interaction with a kid and his family on a visit, and you get to, you learn a lot of things that maybe the unsaid things that you get to notice on the character, of a person, and the family values just by seeing how they function when you get to spend up to 48 hours together on a visit, or we get to go have contact in their homes or in their schools and kind of see them in their environment. And, we just don't get to do those things right now.
Oh, definitely. Because I can say, I was playing for the Final Four. I was having all you all in town and having you come to the studio and come in for
Oh
interviews.
man.
Yeah, I was getting ready to make texts and phone calls. Hey, if you're in it, okay, I get it. If you're not, come by. I got some. I had it all mapped out. Have everybody come by the studio for at least 10-minute interview with me, but it fell through
Oh
on me.
man. I
Do
know
the
we had our guy Kamar Baldwin from Winder, Georgia, right down there. He was a senior. He was like, he's gonna go down as one of the best ever. Put the Butler uniform on. He was ready to try to make it to Atlanta. He was ready.
Yes, indeed. And coach, another one I got for you, man. Non-conference schedule. I know it's been hard for you guys trying to probably get games done, not knowing if non-conference don't really go down because of the virus and stuff. So, how's it been trying to get games? Because I know a lot of schools haven't released their schedules yet because they don't know who they'll be playing non-conference. Even be a non-conference schedule. So, how's that been for you
Yeah,
guys?
we've got agreements and contracts that agreed to, earlier prior to the pandemic hitting and leaving this uncertainty in front of us. Now it's just a matter of what's the season going to look like, and if we're going to be able to follow through with those agreements or not, and if not, how do we adjust? And I don't, nobody, we don't have those answers yet either, because we're trying to figure out when we actually be able to start a season. Obviously, if everything goes like normal, you're talking November 10th. We're going to tip off and play the first game, but is that going to be possible? And you get new information every day, and some of the testing options that are coming out now, and how's that going to help, or what's that going to lend us to be able to do in men's basketball. Football's got their things that they're trying to figure out, and some are going to hop in and go. And with the fall sports, in some leagues that have been delayed to the spring and things like that. So, for us, the challenge is keeping our guys engaged every day, right? Just what can
Yes,
we
indeed.
control we can control today, and not really not focus on the other. That's going to be somebody else's job, to medical experts first and foremost, to figure out what's safe and what's doable. And then we'll adjust, as they give us information, boss, on when we can do what. I think that's the game, right? It's as I told our guys, like, hey, basketball is a game of adjustments.
Got that
so
right.
so now, and it's a life. You learn a lot of life lessons. So now we're gonna have to adjust and just be ready. That one of the things we talk about all the time is, hey, the time to be ready is not the time to get ready. So right now we can get ourselves as ready as possible, whether we got a basketball hoop or not, through the summer to try to train. Now whether we can get 10 guys out there at a time or not, maybe we can only do 4 at a time, but do everything we can to get ready. So when that time comes, we can get out there and have our best version of ourselves on display.
That's one of the Gaffway coaches. This man, let's talk about Coach Thompson, man. He has passed away, and you're in the Big East Conference, man. And you play at Georgetown twice a year, and he got Patrick Ewing, one of his players at Georgetown right now. Let's talk about what Coach Thompson to game of college basketball, what he means to the Big East Conference, what he's meant to you personally as a coach as you've grown into your role.
Yeah, that was you wake up in the morning and you did not expect that news. Obviously, you had over the weekend, you're talking to Lute Olson and Cliff Robinson and Chadwick Boseman, and then, Coach John Thompson, and you're like, man, you just and as a young kid, I'm 5 years old in '84 when Coach Thompson won the national championship, and 10 years old in '89. I was born in '7 when he walks off the court for Boston College, and Allen Iverson, and you got those legendary players that have come through there, and now sitting here in this seat and having a whole different perspective at 41 years old, and thinking about, you didn't really know at the time what you were witnessing, and
Most definitely.
and what he was doing. Now, having transitioned to this point, it's like, man, the opportunity that I have to sit here as a black head coach in the Big East Conference is because of John Thompson and the opportunities that he fought for so many coaches, for so many players, and minorities, and what he stood for, and not being afraid to stand and vocalize, and even if it meant, he had to sacrifice, or take any type of backlash, and he wasn't afraid of it. He wasn't afraid of that responsibility and that obligation. And so just knowing he's a legend, right, an icon, like somebody that transcended the sport, and he'll be on the Mount Rushmore, should be, on the Mount Rushmore of college basketball for more than just winning the national championship and being the first black head coach to win the national championship, but for more than that, which that's a big deal. But obviously for impacting, so many way beyond that. You look up now, and the Big East has 5 black head coaches out of 11 schools, which is more than any other conference in the country. And just the equality to have those, the fight to have those opportunities. That you wouldn't be here without John Thompson.
Coach, I gotta tell you, man, I watched you on FS1 and Fox Sports, man. You have some bad suits, my man. You clean on the sideline, man. You clean on the sideline, brother. I say, hey, Coach Jordan, clean as he want to be over there, man, coaching them up, man.
Hey, out of all the things I had to think about on game day, my wife handles that one. I'm thinking about Villanova or Georgetown and all of the opponents. She takes care of that. So my wife Destiny, that's give her a little love and a shout out, because she takes that one off my plate.
Great job, Destiny. You doing a great job, man. Hey, you be clean, man. I be watching it, man. My man clean on the sideline, boy. He coach these boys up, boy. He doing it clean as he want to be.
I appreciate it.
Hey, man. Hey, Coach. Good to catch up with you, man. And I hope you get to Atlanta real soon, man. I'm about to travel again so I can come up to Indianapolis and see you guys, man, because I know Coach Ren wanted me to come up there as well, IUPUI. So I'm like, I got to see both of you, man, real soon. But as soon as everything chills out a little bit, I hope to get back on the road and know what the Hawks going to do for us in the NBA. That I can definitely plan to make some trips up there to see you guys, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. We definitely have to do that. I know you got to be enjoying Trae Young down there. He's good. I remember trying to recruit him when I was at Michigan. He's good now.
Hey, ice Trae the game, baby. We're glad we got him.
Yeah.
Hey, yes, indeed. Well, Coach, man, hey, be safe, man. Be easy. Hope to talk to you real soon. And best of luck to you and team, man.
Hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, that's Lavelle Jordan on the Bossman Show.
Sally Beauty's new all-in-one hair color kits make it easy to color your hair at home. Get everything you need to color for beautifully radiant results. Loved by professionals, open to everyone. Sally Beauty.
All right, folks, back in the Bossman Show. About to cover some Pacers basketball with Scott Agnes of Fieldhouse Files. He's a free agent right now. Scott, what's up, brother?
Hey, good to be with you. Glad basketball's back, and we have some good playoff games going on right now, so can't complain too much.
Yes, indeed. Well, Scott, I want to talk to you about the Pacers, man. I thought they did good as they could, considering all things, man. They competed against Miami very hard, and they gave Nate the extension of a year, then they fired him 2 weeks later. So I had to talk to you. So what led to Nate's firing, man?
Yeah, so there's a lot there, and going into this restart and all of that. Right before all of that, it was understood that it wasn't a given that Nate was back, right? Because the team had held a team option for him for next season. But because they gave him the extension, which essentially mostly just guaranteed this next year, because they held that team option, they basically enabled that and then pushed back, added a team option for next year. Thoughtful, considering everything going on. And I figured in this pandemic time, when you don't know when the season might restart, talking about next year, why wouldn't you want some continuity? But ultimately, there's several things that led to this. It was the fact that they got swept yet again. He hadn't won a playoff series as Pacers head coach. In fact, he's like 3-17 as a playoff coach. Now, you should throw the context in there that he's also, except for this year, always been the underdog. They've always been counted out. Now, while they were the underdog this year, that was just by their seeding. They were 4, Miami 5. But realistically, I don't know of anybody that predicted the Pacers to win the series. However, that said, even with the parts they had and with good coaching, they should have won at least a game, maybe 2. And so ultimately ownership, and more so Pacers president Kevin Pritchard, with whom Nate's worked with for 11 years, said, all right, enough is enough. We got to stop settling for mediocrity. Let's make a change. So while it was surprising, there are some understandable aspects to it all.
And Scott, I feel like you said, Nate, considering all things, didn't have his full roster, injuries, all that stuff. All those different years is always something. Even when he played Cleveland, he only lost all 4 games by 16 points. So I feel like he took the talent that the Pacers gave him, did what he could with it. Now, I get getting swept is bad, but he did take LeBron James to 7 games. And, I think he maxed out that roster, if you ask me, looking from an outside perspective.
I thought he did incredibly well during the regular season, but if it just came postseason time, it was very underwhelming, I think is the best word to describe it. It was as much how they lost as it was that they lost.
Most definitely. And Victor Oladipo, I read a report on hoopshype.com that he wants out. You're around that team. How true is that Victor wants out, and that Victor played? I think he played because he wanted that money. He didn't want to not lose that money. That's why he played in the bubble. But what are your thoughts on Victor, and will the Pacers have to look to move him and get something bad for him, rather than him leave for nothing after next season?
Yeah, so there's a lot of layers to this. It's not as simple as wanting out or wanting to stay. For one, he wants the most money and an opportunity to win, and his best contract situation, just from a financial stake, was not to sign an extension last fall, which he was eligible for and the Pacers wanted, not to sign one this summer, which he's eligible for and the Pacers want. It's to wait till next summer when he's an unrestricted free agent, so you have bidders. So any team can come after him and make offers. Now, the Pacers obviously own his bird rights, so they can offer him kind of an extra year ultimately, and that's more guaranteed money. So from a dollars and cents standpoint, I think personally this is something that he's got to consider. He's, 28, 29. He's coming off a traumatic injury, and I don't know how comfortable teams are going to be wanting to throw out, say, a max contract and pay a guy $35 million at your age 34, 35. And if he doesn't, and I've already said this on my own podcast and other places, if not, he sure as hell better get insurance to protect himself if the worst does happen this year. In terms of does he want out or not, again, a lot of layers to it. I think there's more intrigue with those around him about what they could do in other markets, talking about fashion, endorsement deals, just a better lifestyle, on top of the fact that the Pacers have not had postseason success. So there's the lack of postseason wins and the intrigue about what it could provide elsewhere, because we know Vic has all kinds of interests in music and fashion, and he even appeared on The Masked Singer and things like that.
And Scott, the Pacers are notoriously not paid the luxury tax. So how much does that factor into contracts of Miles Turner you have on the books right now, other guys with TJ Warren, he's on a good deal. But if you want to keep Victor Oladipo, you have to move some guys to fit that salary in and keep under luxury tax. I know Herb Simon does not want to pay a tax. Never has been a taxpayer.
Yeah, he's only played it a couple times, and honestly, being a small market, if you don't have a chance to contend for a championship that year, no, they're very unwilling to pay that tax. They're not, these investment places, or, the Golden State Warriors or teams like that, or Steve Ballmer, the Clippers, who is worth, I don't know, probably $100 billion, something ridiculous, right? So that's just a rounding error for them. For the Pacers, it's not. I mean, his fortunes build up in malls, and guess what people aren't doing right now? They're not going to malls. So that's complicated and all that. But for Victor, yeah, you're right. They would have to move someone down for next year when it would kick in, presumably, if that's when it came to be that he wanted that extension and sign a new contract, because you have Brogdon at $18 million. You have Miles Turner at 18, and starting this next season, Domantas Sabonis will be, I think, right around 19 per year. So they couldn't tie up in Indiana. You cannot tie up $100 million of, say, $119 million cap on 4 players. It just doesn't work.
Most definitely. And since Kevin moved on from Nate, what type of coach are you looking for now? Is he trying to hire to replace David McMillan? Because I know his offenses can be very basic and antiquated. That's been a complaint of Nate's offenses. Defensively, great, but offensively, very antiquated, very old school, limited. So what are you looking for in a coach here going forward for you guys now?
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised with the move again, and I would have suggested consider bringing in an offensive brain. They have an incredible defensive coach in Dan Burke, who's been there since '97 when Larry Bird hired him. Nate's very much a similar old-school defensive-minded guy. If you watched him play with the Seattle Supersonics, he was a defensive guy. So I thought they, quite honestly, just could have used some creativity with an assistant coach that would have been essentially your offensive coordinator. Now, it's not what they're going to do. So they're going to bring in a new head coach, and I think it's going to be an offensive mind, and I think it's going to be a guy that's well-established and has been a head coach before. I don't see this hire being one that's like, let's give this person a chance, or let's see if he or she can coach. I think this needs, again, to be your established coach that is ready to take this team to the next level. In football, it reminds me when Tony Dungy was fired in Tampa Bay, John Gruden was brought in, and Gruden won the title that year. It was kind of Dungy's team still, but Gruden was that missing piece that changed things a little bit and put them over the top. And I think that's very much what it is right now. There's a lot of great things going on with the Pacers, but if they could better utilize its personnel, if they can update its offense so they're not 30th in three-point attempts, despite being like top 5 in three-point percentage. So many of those things that are, again, underwhelming. That's the word I keep going back to.
And Scott, how realistic is the Kevin and Herb's outlook? Because think about this, the Nets will be better next year. So do you say the Pacers better than Nets? I don't think so on paper. So it's like if you're still looking at 6 to 8 range, if you ask me honestly the truth about the Pacers roster as it stands right now. So expectation with a new coach is going to be takes over the top. But looking at the Eastern Conference, it's kind of like they're still kind of that little zone of 6 to 8 still, even when you add up the Nets and the Sixers maybe being better next year.
Yeah, so I won't go that far because I think they're better than Nets. I don't trust Kyrie after the first month of the season. Durant, we haven't seen post-injury. He may look terrific. We know what old KD is. We haven't visually seen what new KD is. Yeah. And I don't trust that roster as much just yet, plus a new coach. Philly has been a disaster for 2 or 3 years. They're after the Pacers. What I think all I do is flip-flop Pacers and Heat right now. Heat are clearly probably a top 3 at minimum team in the Eastern Conference. I think Pacers are probably 5th right now with no changes because, JR, on the other side of that, keep in mind how many missed games that the Pacers had this year.
Most definitely.
Almost 200 combined games. Victor didn't play until January. Malcolm missed months of the season. So Pacers were on track to win 50 games despite the injuries. And so, again, Nate and his staff did an outstanding job during the regular season. It was just come postseason where guys were faded. They didn't make a ton of adjustments, and the offense lacked that creativity that it could really use. So while I would agree that they aren't that championship contending, I certainly think they're in that next tier right after that in range 3 to 5.
Now, Scott, what are some moves that you think Kevin may make to help improve the roster? I know the first round pick is gone to Milwaukee from Malcolm. Second round pick is gone as
Mhm.
well. So, what moves around the edges you think they'll make with the mid-level exception, maybe about adding one section to bring in some guys to help next year to make the roster a little bit more complete with shooting?
Yeah, so they do have their second round pick. That's pick
Okay.
54. That doesn't get traded till next year.
Okay.
It was protected, I think, 45 to 60.
Okay.
But the first round, you're right, is gone with Milwaukee. And honestly, I don't see this being a great draft. What it seems like, and that's what those that watch it more closely than I have been saying. I don't think it's a horrible thing not to have maybe a draft pick, but they could always trade in. Maybe they could get a late first for a guy like TJ Leaf, where you kind of he's not going to do anything with this roster. He needs a fresh opportunity. Maybe another team has seen him on video and says, hey, it's better than a flyer late in the first round. Maybe that's what you could do. But the other options you're looking at, of course, do you deal Victor right now? Do you wait mid-season? Or do you have hopes that he'll re-sign? What do you do about your bigs? You could trade, say, a Domantas Sabonis or TJ Warren, say their stock's never going to be higher. I don't think that's the move you do, but that's something I would consider. The next thing after Victor, whether you move him or not, is I think Miles Turner, because part of me says this could be a new coach could rejuvenate him a little bit. He's kind of felt out of touch, misused the last couple of years, even changed agents. One of 4 or 5 different Pacers now that have changed agents in the last 4, 5, 6 months. So that kind of tells you how guys have been upset both with their situation and roles a little bit. And so I think those are kind of your moves. They decided on a coach to move on, so you hire a new one. Do you decide on Vic? And then I think probably a Miles Turner is your next move if you decide to do that. Because otherwise the roster is pretty well set. You already have 12 guys under contract for next year.
Most definitely. Last one I got for you, Sky, is this. The All-Star game. I know it got postponed due to COVID. I'm looking forward to coming up there next year, but not happening. Any word on when that'll come back to the redone Bakerside Fieldhouse?
Yeah, we just don't know quite yet, mainly because we don't know about next season yet. And it sounds like what NBA owners are trying to do is push back the season as much as they can in hopes that, say, a vaccine is in place and more specifically that you can have fans in the stands, because that's where a ton of revenue comes in, especially for a franchise like the Pacers. The Lakers can depend on a TV contract. The Pacers cannot. They need the concessions, the merchandise sales, and fans in the seats. And so hypothetically speaking, what if you move the season back to, I don't know, January, February, March? Maybe you would honestly have an all-star game in May, June. If not, maybe you push them all back, but more specifically, more likely, I should say, you would probably jump to the end of the line, and I think that would be after Cleveland and after, I want to say, Salt Lake City are the next 2 stops. So maybe it'd be another 3 years if it does not happen for the 21 season.
Scott, thank you for your time, my brother. Good to catch up with you, man. Hope you and your family is being safe, and hope to talk to you real soon, my guy.
All right, Jeff. Thanks for having me on.
That's Scott Adams on the Bossman Show. Thanks again, brother.
How do you feel about your office? Is it just a space for your company? Or is it a space to help you grow your company? From new HQs to satellite offices, with WeWork, you can find a space that works for you. Visit we.co/space matters to learn more.
All right, folks, back here on the Boss Man Show here at Robert Jones, coach of Norfolk State Spartans out of the MEAC Conference. Coach Jones, first of all, how you and your family doing, man, through all this COVID crisis, man?
Everybody doing okay. Everybody's, safe and sound so far. Thank God, and just trying to continue to be safe and sound in these times.
Now, Coach, let's go back to March at the MEAC tournament, man, when you all found out when everything was getting shut down. I know for me, it was my birthday, March 11th, when the Hawks and Knicks shut down. I got the text messages, we're going to suspend the season. And since my birthday, it's kind of been crazy. I know y'all in the MEAC tournament going on. So how was it for you and your team and that whole experience, and especially for your seniors who got to hit in on that kind of a note there?
I mean, it was tough for them. I think that the day that they shut down the MEAC tournament, we were supposed to play a couple hours later. We never played one game in the tournament. So, we were supposed to play that night as our opening game in the quarterfinals. But we never played. And we knew during the day that it wasn't going to happen because we had shoot around that day for the game. But then after shoot around, we started seeing, league after league after league canceling. So we knew it was just a matter of time if we were next. We were hoping that maybe we would have played, but once everybody else canceled, we was the last one standing. It was like, they got to cancel now. So it was over with that. But just having that conversation with the guys, and then not just the seniors especially, that they won't have a chance to go to the NCAA tournament, but those young guys who put in a lot of work. Last year we had a team that we had 10 new guys, and we kept progressing over the season. And we had, we were going into that tournament on a 3-game winning streak. And, we were like the highest rated, team, like as far as RPI net ranking in the conference heading into the MEAC tournament. So although we weren't the number 1 seed, we were 1 game out of first place. We had the highest ranking and the momentum going into the tournament. So we were looking forward to the tournament, but once again, we couldn't do it. It crushed everybody, coaches, players, seniors, freshmen, everybody. It crushed.
And I know this played a big role for your academic advisor, because getting guys going to be from on campus to now going virtual, that transition had to be hard for some of the guys who are used to that structure, being on campus with you guys in that flow of study halls and the help you have on campus. So academic advisor played probably a big role in getting your young men to do the spring semester and the summer here as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think them and us, we had to make sure we keep up with these guys too, because now, like you said, it's not, it's easier when a kid knows that if he misses class that you might go run him, outside on a track or something like that for missing class, but it's a little harder when, if he misses something and he's 500 miles away from you. It's a little tougher to try to have that same punishment. But academic advisors did a great job. The coaching staff, did a great job, and we were able to. Our team GPA was almost 3.2. It was 3.195 last semester during the pandemic. So that was good for us.
And that just shows how your young men, are responsible and accountable, because, it's easy during that time to get back home, like you said, coach, and know where they're back and not doing the assignment, even though you probably show up on Blackboard still, but, the accountability factor is not as there because you're not on campus. So if you're a young man to come through that strong for you like that with over B average, man, kudos to them for sure.
Yeah, without question. So it was definitely a good semester for us. Academically, it was a good semester.
Now, Coach, so with the guys being at home, I'm pretty sure your strength and conditioning coach played a big role too, because, guys not made to get to a hoop. You want them to be in some kind of physical condition, and they're going to be in tip-top shape as they come back to campus here real soon. But it's like, how did that go? Trying to keep guys, give them workouts, kind of do stuff where they don't have a hoop and in the home and walking and running, stay in some kind of shape during this whole time of shutdown.
Well, the strength and conditioning coach, yes, has been very influential in setting exercises and things like that. We've also set up something ourselves. We use the Nike Run Club app, that is free, and we put up challenges, whether it's this week do 5 miles, this week do 3 miles, whatever the challenge is, so we can know that the guys are doing something and they have to record it, in the app. I guess that's free knowledge to any coaches out there that's trying to figure out a way to, keep their guys in condition. You can use the Nike Run Club app. So that's that's for free right there, that little tip right there. So we've used it, and just to keep the guys something going. You got to keep them in some kind of shape. They're not going to be in the shape that they should be in exactly, but you don't want them to get so far out of shape that's going to take forever for them to get in shape.
Most definitely, Coach. During this time, Coach, I know you probably had to talk to you guys about being responsible, saying no when you want to say yes to certain things, because, I was once beginning accountable as a team, because, if you only got to get too sick or get a family member because I want to go out and have some fun or the barbecue or whatever the case may be. So how have you been trying to stress to your guys that about, even though you're young, this thing can still bother you and cause you some lasting damage if it's not taken care of properly?
I mean, that's the toughest part sometimes, because these kids, sometimes young kids think they're invincible to what's going on, and you're not, COVID affects people of all ages. Of course, it does affect people older, a little different, but it does affect people of all ages. All ages, people are getting sick. All ages, people are dying. So, you're not oblivious to it because you're 18, 19, 20 years old. And I think some of these young guys think that. So we've been just trying to be conscious as far as like educating them on how serious this is. Like I tell people all the time, like I'm not necessarily running from the disease, but I'm not scared of the disease, but I'm not running to it either, though. And stuff like that. So I wear my mask. When I'm in public places, I encourage them to do the same. I got my hand sanitizer. I wash my hands. I do everything that I'm supposed to do to try to avoid as much as possible the disease.
especially like you said, like right here in Atlanta, like Georgia State's quarterback's out for the year with the heart issue that he had from COVID-19. So like guys their age are affected by it. You know, I know some of the Big Ten had a report saying about the biggest fear about guys who had asymptomatically was the heart issue still, the heart muscle enlargement. So and that can affect the guy running up down the court or a field. If your heart's a little bit enlarged, that can end badly for you. So I hope the young men out here listening to the show today will understand that, hey, even though you're young, it can still have a lasting effect. If you don't have any, quote, symptoms per se, it's still doing something to you internally.
Yeah, without question. I mean, that new thing that they found out about the heart, you know, even though, like you said, you know, you can walk around in the actual COVID, you know, you're not coughing or you're not, you know, lost taste or smell or anything like that. But then the long-term effect with the heart disease is a scary thing. So, you know, just trying to make sure everybody is as safe as possible. You know, we realize that probably throughout the course of a year, and we hope that it doesn't happen, but, you know, someone might catch it, unfortunately, because that's just, you know, so easy to catch. But we're trying to do everything that we can to educate the guys on precaution, and also precaution once they, you know, get around other college students, you know, that are non-student athletes. Just trying to have them be the ambassadors to let people know, you know, that to make sure you practice the safe protocols, because it could affect everybody. And, you know, selfishly, of course, it could affect the student athletes, you know, tremendously.
And Coach, looking at, you know, everything here with recruiting wise, have you been expanding your reach? Because, you know, everybody's using Zoom now. So have you been able to get into different areas now, not having to travel? You can just Zoom them and show them like the campus virtually now, talk to the family virtually here. So how's that Zoom recruiting been for you guys, and how's it helped you in your future classes here coming up?
It's been interesting. It's been tough too, because at the same time you want to sit down and look somebody in the eyes, you know, and really try to get a feel and have them look at you in your eyes so you can see the passion of you. I think sometimes, you know, the passion or way a kid is or demeanor doesn't really fully come across in Zoom as you know, when they're sitting on the couch in your office, you know, and you can really talk to them. So that's been tough in that regard. Now financially, of course, it's been easier because you have to use a lot of the budget to do anything, you know, recruiting wise. And then I do think that people are, you know, becoming more receptive of Zoom, you know, recruiting and things like that. So it's not so far-fetched. I mean, you know, I know you know, we've done, you know, the podcast before together and stuff like that. So, you know, I definitely took the call, but I'm zoomed out, man. I'm not even gonna lie to you, man. You know, I'm zoomed. Like, we do a lot of Zoom stuff, you know, it's cool for what it is. But you definitely want to get that in-person contact.
Most definitely. You know, from my side, it's good to see you guys rather than on the phone. You know, for me, it's good. I mean, for me, the Zoom thing was like, oh yeah, you can do Zoom now via from your house. I was like, cool.
Yeah.
I ain't got to go downtown no more. Cool. I can see people now. Okay, cool. So they set me up with. So I like to get able to see you guys now and talk to you that way now. But yeah, man, I feel you, man. I can feel you being zoomed out for sure. And now, Coach, you kind of about the budget here. I'm worried about the HBCU schools, especially small schools, because, like, look here, man. Let's be real about it. I've seen some of these contracts for games, and I know what they are. They loaded with these COVID clauses, and if you have fans, if you don't have fans, and men's basketball and women's basketball and football, the money raising schools for HBCU schools for the most part, the revenue-wise, covering everybody. So I know the season might be pushed back to Thanksgiving. So how is that being sent down with your AD and people around the budget about, you know, if the guarantee games are not there for you guys, how y'all going to kind of get through this year, man, if they take that away from you guys to recoup that money down the road?
I think credit to, you know, I know I'm not quite sure what a lot of other places are doing, and I know there's, you know, different places doing different things, but credit to our institution, I would say, is that there is institutional help to get through this year, you know, because they understand that athletically it's going to be a deficit. It's probably going to be a big deficit athletically. But the institution has helped out with some help covering some of that deficit, so it won't hit us as hard. You know, we haven't had to drop any sports or anything like that I see some other places have done. You know, so you know, credit to the higher ups at Norfolk State for helping athletics. But it's definitely going to be a deficit. I mean, our season, even though it's going to be probably pushed back a couple weeks, you know, more than likely, you know, you can reschedule some of those games and make some things happen, you know. So we probably won't lose that much revenue. Now we'll probably lose ticket sales. And I'm not quite sure how many fans and things like that is going to happen. But as far as the games, we'll probably be able to figure that out now. But on the football side of things, that's the tricky part because they had guaranteed games set up themselves, and I'm not quite sure if they're going to be able to make up any of those guaranteed games, especially with them not playing to the spring, and then some of the Power Fives are playing now. So it's like they're not going to play now and in the spring. So it's like it's all over the place with that. So we'll see what happens with that.
And Coach John, let's talk about this issue, man. Now that you've been the head coach at HBCU school, a lot of young black men on your roster. So how have you attacked talking to the young men about the social unrest with George Floyd murder, Brown Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Ray Sharp right around my backyard, and other deaths? So how have you attacked that with your young men trying to understand what's going on in our country right now with that side of things as well?
I think what like I've said, and of course, as you probably know, this is a popular question on any interview or anything like that. But the thing that I say, man, and I say it all the time, is that it's being a 41-year-old black man in this country, and teaching, and coaching predominantly African American young men, on my team. This is a conversation that we've had before in the past, before those unfortunate murders of, all those people that you named, George Floyd, and you go down the list, Breonna Taylor, and the shooting of Jacob Blake, and all the other stuff like that, and everything in between. As we have talked about this before. We talked about this last year, the year before, stuff like that. Just the racial injustice. The thing is that I say is that I think myself, of course, being a little older than them, you kind of grow up and you see different things. Growing up, so you've seen this story before, and it's like, unfortunately, you almost become numb to it a little bit, and that's unfortunate. But I do think that, like, some of these younger guys, because they play sports, and sports is kind of almost like a racial bridge, like you got black guys, white guys, all on the same court, all on the same field, all on the same team, playing and pulling for each other, that they almost don't realize the full racial injustice that there is in the country. So like now, like they're seeing this stuff up close and personal, is like making them like fired up, and that's why you see like a lot of the millennials marching and protesting and things like that. Because like I think honestly sometimes these younger kids almost forgot there was racism, or didn't believe there was racism.
Exactly.
So now that they see it in the forefront, with the technology of camera phones and other recording devices, they're like, wow, that really happens? Like they was like, they're almost oblivious to it. And then now it's like right there, and now it's like causing a big uproar among the younger folk. Because like I said, once you get past a certain age, I think you become numb to it, because you've seen this story before. Like, it's unfortunate for all those people that you named, but we can go back 10 years and start naming more people. We can go back 20 years and start naming more people. So it's like, we've had these conversations before. So like, it's really nothing that we're doing so different in this day and age now with these guys than we haven't already talked about with other teams. Only thing now, we just try to make sure if they want to talk to us, we're able to, comfort them a little bit in this situation.
And I know a lot of coaches are talking to me about voting and making sure your team's registered to vote. Is that an initiative you all are pushing for you guys to make sure all you guys registered to vote? Because I know this election is very, very crucial and key for a lot of reasons for our people going forward.
No, without question. That's one of our big initiatives. And I think we almost got everybody so far. I think we had like 88% or something like that. So we got a couple more guys that got to register. But, like I told people before, I'm not going to tell you who to vote for because that's not my job. But I do think that you've earned the right to vote. So vote for somebody. Go through the next couple months and decide what candidate, you want to vote for. I'm not, like I said, I'm not telling anybody to vote, who to vote for, anything like that, because I think there's flaws on both of those candidates, honestly. There's it could be perceived pros on both of those candidates too. So, you make your decision, but definitely exercise your right to vote, because your ancestors got you that right to vote.
And Coach, I'm 33, you're 41, so you know what I'm saying here. Like, for me, I'm the first one in my family to have full rights on paper, per se. My father's born in 31, mom born in 41, so I've older parents. But for them, they didn't want both full rights, and I do. So I feel like I have to push this issue for my parents who didn't have it, because, you and I was born full rights, but our parents were not. So I feel like we got to express it and teach our young men, like, hey, look, it's more than what you think it is, because now it's out there again. Some people, like you said, kind of got numb to it and didn't think it happened. And I try to explain racism is subtle. it's systemic. It's not just calling you an N-word, right? It's systemic and more so than that. It's more nuanced than that. And I tell my white listeners is that unless you know it and deal with it, you ain't gonna see us. You know, deal with it the way we do. So it's not gonna be like clear cut for you the way it is for us.
Yeah, without question. I mean, I agree. I mean, just like I tell some of my white counterparts is that like I can't tell you how to be a white male. I can't tell you how you feel. Being a white male, and you can't really understand how I feel being a black male. Honestly, until we can try to educate each other on both sides. Because I mean, I can't tell you how it is to be a white male. Or they can't tell you. They can't tell me how it is in my shoes. So it's like, when we're trying to educate you on how it is, just listen a little bit, and not think that it doesn't exist. You can take your own views or whatever, but just listen to what's actually, said. Like, listen to like how we feel. Listen to what we've been through, and don't think that like, oh my God, no way you've been through that. Yeah, yes we have, and stuff. Just because most of us don't go and cry about it every day, don't mean we it's not going on and we haven't, been through it. We just try to figure out a way to just navigate through the nonsense, and stuff. So that's all.
Most definitely. Coach Jones, I thank you for your time today, man, on a Friday, man. I appreciate you always coming on the show, man, and we'll definitely do this again on the road, man. I know you zoomed out, man. It was fun to see you, man. Talk to you and see you, man.
For sure, man. For sure. Anytime, man.
All right, folks. It's Robert Jones from the Bossman Show.